I'm trying to find Stephanie. She's got to be here somewhere. We are on Smith Mesa, and it is such a beautiful day here today. We're looking down at the city of Virgin, and over into, I think maybe a little to the left we would see it more, but Zion National Park. We thought we would look on Gooseberry Mesa to scout it out and see what we could find. We found some really great chert there. And then just to see how the day was up here, we came up here. It's very muddy today, and Stephanie is looking a little bit. I'm not looking as hard. I came to fly my drone and see what I could see, and to be honest, I think you're going to like what we show a little bit later. Sometimes it's less about what you can pick up and more about what you get to see. For example, today, this is apparently a floodplain, or what it was a long time ago. And you can see that there's a very hard, very coarse sandstone. I think we're in one part of the Chinle Formation, so I don't know what level of the Chinle Formation that would be. But you can see all sorts of rocks that are embedded in this. And I think what happened is that there were floods during this time, or this time period, and trees would get buried. We've looked at some of those trees. I think there's one over there that a lot of people are familiar with on the edge of Smith Mesa. And if you walk along through here, you might see a couple more pieces of petrified wood that are embedded. They're very pretty. A lot of these are heavily silicified. Is that maybe the right word? There's the piece we looked at a few minutes ago. There are a couple of more pieces as we walk along that you might see. And then again, just this spectacular view. It's unbelievable. We are looking towards Virgin, a small town in southern Utah, and now back at the Shinneramp conglomerate member of the Chinle Formation. This is a beautiful area in southern Utah, and we were quite surprised when we started looking at the cliffside here. This area is well known for having a tremendous amount of petrified wood, and what we didn't expect is seeing these pieces of petrified wood on the cliffside. If you look to the right there, you saw a couple of pieces, and we're going to zoom in on a few more pieces. This area was formed roughly 230 million years ago. Again, this is not the petrified member of the Chinle Formation. This is below that. And yet in this area, you'll see quite a few tree trunks. There's a whole band here that you can see. Look at that as you zoom in. Every single one of those holes seems to be petrified wood. If you look online, the Shinneramp member is described as being braided rivers. And I looked this up to try and understand what a braided river is, and I think I was left with the idea that there are a lot of sandbars, that it might be something like a delta. But also if you look in other places, you'll see this being an area where there were intense floods that carried down large rocks and apparently tree trunks. If you look on the cliffside there, you can see the large cobbles, large stones, in addition to the trees that were floating down. So there was a lot of energy moving the sediment and the trees in this area. It's really spectacular. One of my favorite spots is that area to the left, and it's an area that I didn't appreciate as well before I started looking at the video after. If you look closely at those cavities, you'll see the linear nature of petrified wood will pop out at you. Now there's some difficulty here when we're looking at the petrified wood and the sandstone. You'll get similar kinds of breaks in the wood. That's a really nice trunk. You can see a branch, a large branch coming off down at the right corner of the screen. So this area, again, another view looking towards Virgin, and these sandstone or conglomerate cliffs, I should say, that are just immense. And so we've looked at those petrified trunks from a little bit closer. Now we're a little bit further back. Scanning through those, you'll be able to find dozens of trees in there at that area, sometimes poking out, sometimes linearly across the wall. I think that's a particularly interesting chunk right there that I'd like to explore another day as well. So back to the geology just a little bit here. It's hard for me to know exactly how this might fit, because it's very clear that the petrified wood member is above this area. We are below the area that's called the petrified wood member, and yet very clearly this is petrified wood. You can find quite a few tree trunks that are really impossible to move. People have fractured off small pieces. It's very erosive. It erodes very easily. You can see some of the holes. The petrified wood has essentially disappeared. In some cases, when you look in these cavities, you'll find kind of almost a mushy clay, small particle soil that has resulted from the erosion. And then other trees seem to have stuck around and been somewhat harder. In any case, as I look at this, there's some things I don't fully understand. It looks like there's a transition in the type of rock side to side, and you can see I believe those are they look like juniper trees growing there, although there's some pines here. That area looks somewhat different than the conglomerate sandstone that we're looking to at the right here. Just a couple of other things that could potentially be found in this area. You might find some dinosaur bones. You might find some leaves and plants. The petrified member is very clearly a different kind of, or a similar kind of presentation with the rivers and the wetter landscape. I don't know if the landscape was drier or wetter during the time of the Shinnerup conglomerate member formation. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. It's a lot of fun to look at. If you ever get a chance to take a drone, this is an area that has an airfield, and it probably requires at least the notifications that are pretty easily done with the drone system. You have reception up on top of the mesa, so you can do that. And if you looked closely, you can see that runway that's on the top. Now, the runway, as far as I know, is no longer used. That runway was part of a very interesting history. As I understand the story, as airplanes became faster, particularly during World War II, ejection was not very safe. The speed and velocity of the airplane was so high that it was difficult to survive an ejection. So what they did is they did some testing with primates on this mesa. It's sometimes called Smith Mesa, it's sometimes called Monkey Mesa. The primates were put in these ejection seats, and the safety of ejection seats were tested. And those runways, when you look at the very beginning of the video, you'll see that runway. This is an example of an area that I think the petrified wood has essentially eroded into a very kind of like blue. When we see it in other places and we're able to actually get closer, it's kind of like a blue, not gritty, but chalky maybe like material. At least that's how I would describe it. My wife would tell you I'm terrible at describing colors and textures, but it's a very smooth, kind of clayish material. We're zooming in here. I thought that we would probably find some trunks here because of the disruption of the layers. As far as I can tell, there's nothing in that area. But as we move along, you'll see more of the petrified wood. That might be a piece on the bottom right. And again, the view is breathtaking. We're looking somewhat south and west over the town of Virgin, and I believe that's Gooseberry Mesa in the background there. If you point the camera to the north, and Stephanie may have done this later, we have this beautiful panoramic view that we took with Rock, the drone we use, RAWK, for those that are curious. And you can look almost pretty much up into Kolob Five Fingers. You can look towards where the West Rim Trail starts, and then you've noticed, if you look closely, you can see over into Zion, depending on the viewpoint of this video.
This is 8K resolution. Yeah, pretend that like, since we're done with hunting rocks, that we just started. Hey, there's some really cool rocks over here. Did you look at these? You'd love to see them. I know you would. Okay, that's really going to show it there. This is a Petrified wood later. And just one more time in 8K. Obviously, it shows